Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Shama Ashram in Cali, Colombia, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Sleep In Sunday, and welcome to, it's a guest day, special guest day, exclusive honored guest, Jahnavi Harrison, who is one of our favorite kirtan singers, perhaps on the planet Earth. In that sense, I'm just going to say within the universe, because I don't know anyone outside the universe. She's one of my favorite kirtan singers in the universe. Jahnavi, welcome to the show. Great to have you back. So it's your second time on the show.
I know. I feel extremely honored.
We're going to talk about so many great things, including your new single, as well as your Rise record you did with Willow Smith. But first, we want to welcome everybody listening on Facebook. On the weekends, we do this interview day and question day on Saturday on Facebook. So if you're listening on Facebook for the first time, welcome to our Srimad Bhagavatam class. Happens every day. You can check in with sacred yoga literature to upgrade your life. And all you have to do is go to anywhere you get podcasts, App Podcasts, Spotter. Did I just make that one up? Spotify, Stitcher. That was a love child of Spotify and Stitcher. Spotter. Or even YouTube, and therefore you can see it, and you can actually see my new glasses, which are pink. And they tried to block out the light behind me if you're watching on Zoom right now, and they put up this thing that makes me look like I have a giant ribbon in my hair. Welcome to the show, everybody. Kaustubha, what's going on? What's going on with you?
Interviewing Jahnavi this morning, actually. With you. Otherwise, everything's great. Yeah.
Well, I met Jahnavi when she was 9 years old. Doesn't that make me sound like an old man? But Shelter was on tour. I don't know if Paramananda remembers this. We were on tour, and we were traveling through England on a tour of England, and we wanted to go visit this big temple in London that was gifted to our guru's guru, and it's a big estate that they turned George Harrison, and they turned it into a temple. And Jahnavi, I met her father there, who was living in the ashram. Jahnavi grew up there, and she was 9 years old, and I gave her a Shelter sticker. And that's how I first met Jahnavi. And now she's an adult, and she's world renowned, and she's, an incredible singer. And her father was a great singer. And we're not going to get into your past, but let's move into the future with where you're at right now. And everybody listening on Zoom today, we're all big fans of your music. We like to play it in the background, in the car, in our house, and we just love it. And your new record is even your new, what do you call it, an EP that you did with Willow Smith?
Yes, an EP, I guess. That's it's
cool. And that was really out of the box from what you've probably done previously. It's like a beautiful, I don't know what you call it. I don't know what they call it anymore. It's not rock and roll. It's like soft, beautiful singing together. What do you call it?
I have no idea. It's I guess it's spiritual music for a new era.
It's just beautiful spiritual music. It's incredible. I was playing it. Paramananda came in my room this morning. He's like, "What are you playing?" I was like, it's Jahnavi and Willow Smith. It's beautiful. So,
Thank you.
what was it like in the creation process? How do you get inspired to write songs?
Well, this project, as you said, it was something out of the box for me, because although, I'd usually when you have on a form, like they say, what are you? These days, I either put down writer or musician, and I've always written, and obviously my language is English, but growing up, I was we were mostly singing in Sanskrit, so my mode of expression in music and song was not really English, or at least I could sing somebody else's song, but it didn't feel so natural, or I guess I felt a little scared, to enter that realm myself. But this project, something about the way that it came about, part of it was the timing, part of it is where I've come in my evolution, just, myself. And Willow also was proved to be a really empowering collaborator. It was quite an interesting dynamic because she's a lot younger than me. She's probably like 13 years younger than me. So in some ways, like you normally think with someone a lot younger than you that, okay, well, I've, had different, more life experience or something, but it wasn't like that at all. It was like we both brought in our different types of experience and gave equally to it. And she really gave me a lot of courage. Like I had these song lyrics that I was like, yeah, if you want to see, like, I came up with this thing. I don't know if it's any good. I mean, you can change the whole thing if you want. She was like, I love it. Let's do it. Let's record it right now. And I was like, really? And it just moved very fast. She's, she also works very fast, moves very fast. And I generally do things quite slowly. So that was also a great dynamic, just to kind of jump into it, jump off the diving board and go for it.
You write the lyrics, like when I would write songs in the old days, I'd write the lyrics separately from the music. I think good songwriters can write them both together. I was never that good. Mm-hmm. Do you write them as poems first and then you put them to music, or is it integrated with music when you're writing?
I think it's a combination. It just depends. But I usually, if I don't have music already, I'll usually have an idea of a theme or something I want to express. But then I very, very soon want to find the music that captures that feeling, and then have to see how they fit together. But with the writing of this, for the most part, apart from the song "Born to Give," which I did write separately. I wrote, music and lyrics. That sort of just came together. But with the other ones, we did it together. Like we would have an idea, and I might suggest some lyrics, and then we would try to find chords or a musical sound that fit, and then we sort of like, burrow into it in parallel. The lyrics would start to evolve more, and the music.
Mm.
So
I don't want to take this interview south right now, but my band Better Than 1,000, one of my side bands, we had a song called Born to Give, and I'm sending a text message to my lawyer right now because that seems like we got some copyright infringement going on here, but maybe you want to contact Will Smith's lawyer because I'm coming after him with, no, just kidding.
You know what though, Raghu?
You do have a song called Born to Give.
I forgot about this, but it actually, that line was inspired by you, because you always say that, right?
I took it from a song. Because when I get bored, I have nothing to say. I refer to one of my old songs too. But it's a great statement, because the soul is born to give love. If you think about it, it's born to give love. Yeah. But in confusion, we just love the material world, and it breaks our heart. So that is a great song. When I heard it this morning, I was like, yeah. All this stuff we're just stealing from the great saints, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but thank you, because that wasn't
not that I'm the great saint that you stole it from, but we're stealing it from somebody. But the question which is on everybody's mind while you're practicing, does Will poke his head in the room like, how's it going in there, ladies? Does Will Smith hear your songs and appreciate them? That is the question that's on the back of my mind. It's a little cheesy to ask, but I'm asking it.
Yeah,
you've seen those videos where he's in Haridwar. So the family must have some attachment to Kirtan and Krishna and stuff like that. That's beautiful.
They, yeah, they definitely appreciate it, and he did listen in a couple times, and we got some good, encouraging feedback. So it was
And how did you
wonderful.
run in? How did you run into her? How did you become friends?
So I was doing a kirtan event in LA at the home of my friend Jay Shetty, who many
Mm.
people might know. Um, we've known each other for about 15 years because we both were part of the same community, their spiritual community at Bhakti-yogi Manor. Um, and so we've done a lot of, we've served a lot together, collaborated a lot together in London over many years. And so we hadn't seen each other for quite a long time since he moved out to LA. But he really wanted to have a beautiful kirtan and introduce many of his friends to what this practice is. And so I went out there, and they were some of the guests. So I didn't fully realize, but they had introduced her to my album many months before that. So
Oh, nice.
when we met, she was sort of like,
She's a fan.
as she puts it, she was in fan mode.
Mhm.
And I was also kind of like, whoa. Yeah. She thinks that I was like, who is this random person getting all excited, which I wasn't at all. I was so happy to meet her too. But yeah, we just connected, and from the first moment that we spoke for about 10 minutes before the kirtan started, and I could immediately feel that she was really a very deep person, very spiritually inquisitive, and seeking, a way to serve through her music. She said that in a very, very direct way that kind of blew me away. So it didn't happen for still, it wasn't still another, 6 months or so that we thought maybe we should do something together. But that's how it happened.
Kaustubh, Jahnavi's part of this. It's like a phenomenon of, because I like Indian bhajans and hearing them in India, but there's something about this generation of your generation, and it's not me and Kaustubha, it's your generation who grew up in bhakti that have been chanting since you were children, where it's not like you don't have to learn it. It's like it's not your karma, it's your janma. It's like you're born doing it. And like you guys are like this generation of your generation, it's like my favorite access into spiritual music, because it's got that Western flair, but you grew up within that culture. And so you and Gora and Karnamrita, and it's all my favorite stuff. It really speaks to me. I think it's like a beautiful blend of East meets West in the most organic way. What do you think, Kaustubh?
Well, I mean, it's certainly, I feel the way that you do about that generation of devotees, right? This second generation
Yeah.
devotees who are just born with, in a sense, like, you could say like bhakti in their blood. They grew up with it. But you know what I'm particularly excited about, and especially when I listen to Rise and some of the new music coming out now, is you and I, and most of us, we weren't born that way and we weren't raised that way. Now, when I was a
No, we're
kid,
looking. Yeah.
I would listen to music constantly. Like, music was really, really important part of my life. And when I became a monk and then continuing after that, I really had to let go of all the music that I listened to, because it would take my mind in so many different directions. And and um and the music that was coming, like the music that was in the bhakti, world, I love it live. Like, I love kirtan live, but it's not the kind of thing I listen to during the day. Like, I won't listen to it. I not never,
You don't
but
play kirtan
rarely.
at home?
Rarely, rarely. It doesn't grab me in the same way. I need that Western music. I need English lyrics and emotion being expressed through the English language, and even you know just I suppose the mind becomes conditioned towards, like, Western songwriting, schemes and so on, like that, right? Chorus verse, bridge, chorus verse, chorus, or something like that. You get used to that, and that's why, like, for me now, like, hearing this record, it's really exciting for me to hear Jahnavi just, putting out a record. It's not entirely in the English language, but it's mostly, and really good songs, just like really great songs, really great production, something that, my mind can naturally just kind of click with. So I'm excited to see devotees producing more like this, more music like
What
this.
gives
And yeah, and I feel like we're at the we're at the we're at a time in history where sooner or later someone's going to break. Like, someone's going to put out that
right?
one record that just, like, really changes thing. And I feel like when I hear this record, I feel like this could be, a record that could do that, that has the potential to do that kind of thing. I really love the record, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I have a
Yeah, you
question. Yeah, go ahead. Something
I was
you would
going to
like?
say, like you were saying, like it gives us, you're not just the music, but we're dealing with all these people who are doing films, and
Yeah.
it's like something's going to break, and
Yeah.
it also gives us we've been talking a lot about films, that if we're with spiritual consciousness, what can we watch that we feel just will not degrade our consciousness, degrade our mind, and we're just starting to see a whole new birth of culture that is like uplifting and upgrading. And it's nice to listen to music and not have to worry about, like, okay, now they're going to talk about killing cops and whatever like that. So I don't think there's you have no cop killing lyrics in your songs, right?
I didn't pick
Just
that up.
checking out.
The Rise, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, not on the Rise CD, at least.
It's my other album.
Okay, because
That was called Cop Killer.
straight
by
out of
Jahnavi Harrison.
London, straight out of the manor.
But my question is, this, it's an EP. I like the idea of an EP too, because it's like, it's just kind of a nice size. It's 8 recordings, or 6 recordings actually, right? 6. And
Yeah.
was it? It feels like, to me, it feels like it was conceived as like a progression, or at least maybe, well, at some point in the process. Like, do you see it that way? Like, from 1 to 2 to 3, I kind of feel like a spiritual progression going through it.
The songs were not written and recorded in the order that they are on the EP. So in that sense, the creative process wasn't a progression, but we certainly tried to order them in a way that had a spirit of that when we had to decide on the order.
Yeah.
And I think definitely for me, concluding with the Maha Mantra that felt significant to me, because it's the only sort of just kirtan mantra on the whole EP, and it's the shortest track. It's sort of like you listen to all of this, and then there's like a little window open and this is something else that you could also dive into, but just going to give you a little taste and see what you think of it. And we both felt like it was cool to we were like, has there ever been I don't know, I can't remember how long the track is. It's probably less than 2 minutes.
1 minute and 56 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a little radical to me. Like I was thinking, well, is this weird? To a kirtan track, like it can't be less than 10 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
But
Right.
but when
There was the Hair soundtrack, Jahnavi, where they busted into Hare Krishna and then sort of like merged it into marijuana. I don't know if you remember that one. That was a classic.
Right. But yeah, for me, it works. I really like it. It's like you don't have to give everything away all at once. And I feel like, to what you said, Kaustubha, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I do listen to kirtan, but over the years, it's been less listening to that. I like to listen to a wide range of music, and I like to participate in kirtan. But I also feel like that stimulation and interest in words and poetry and music that has different sounds, it's very much something that inspires me, and that's why I want to make more music, because I feel like we do need that. And I've noticed that even people who have been practicing bhakti for a long time many times do listen to such a wide range of things, because we still want that and need that. So
I feel like
I'm the opposite.
Okay. I don't know what you're the opposite of exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't listen to anything else except kirtan at home.
Yeah, okay.
I think
You're
I
very
love
pure.
music like crazy. It's not because I'm pure. I don't know what it is. What I do now, I just start to listen to peculiar like Hindi bhajans and things like that, weird stuff on YouTube, and like and just collecting weird chanting and mantras. I don't listen to Western music anymore. I'm not listening. I'm not looking for that song. But I don't know. I loved music like crazy, and as soon as I moved to the ashram, I just like had a cut with it. And I was like, I loved music, me and Parman, they were record collectors and stuff like that. But I listened to nothing else. So anyway, I appreciate it. I'm not trying to say I'm better,
But you are.
but I might be. But I might be. I'm not saying that. But I do only listen to kirtan.
So, Jahnavi, as I feel that progression in the songs, it feels like there's kind of like a promise. It's to me, I feel like it's communicating like a message, and the message is that, I'm getting tired of materialistic life, and I need to have the courage to let go of it. And there's a promise. There's a promise that's connected, and you kind of drop Sanskrit verses into throughout, but from this ancient tradition, there's a promise that if you could peel away the layers, the body, the mind, the ego, and all of that, that you can get to something that's completely satisfying, completely fulfilling. But it's hard to do in this world. But I'm feeling an inspiration to reach for it, to go for it, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, the context in which we produce this piece of music was, it was kind of intense. Like I had to leave England during the pandemic. The only way I could get into the US was, thankfully, I have dual citizenship with Canada, and I quarantined in Canada for 2 weeks to get into the States. And we had this window to be able to work on it. And, we had planned to work on it back in March, April, and we were just waiting. We all thought, oh, maybe the pandemic will be finished by, sometime in the summer, or like there was these things people would say like, oh yeah, probably by this time it'll calm down. And eventually we just felt like, well, we've got to just try and get together because, we kind of felt it's going to be better if we're there in person together. So by the time we actually got in the same room together, with everything that had been going on, I had experienced the death of many people in my community.
It
I'd
hit
had
your
COVID.
Community hard in England.
Very hard, very hard. Yeah.
Of all the Bhakti communities out there, it seems like England got hit hard.
It did. Yeah. And so many people I know had it in a very serious way. Many people passed away. The journey to get to LA had so many parts to it, any of which could have, failed. So just to get into the same room felt like an achievement. She had gone through many other things that year, and everyone had been living with this anxiety of just what's going on with the world. And I think that mood of sort of exhaustion with everything going on, it actually catalyzed or empowered what we were creating, what we were writing, because we felt like, we really need to hear these messages. This is healing for us to record this. And after we had finished it, I think I came back to New York, and I remember Willow told me that she had just been listening to it in her car, and she said, I was just having a moment, like I was crying, and so I think people were walking past the car and thinking like, what's that weird girl doing, praying in her car. And I said, yeah, I've been also listening to it. And it's a funny thing with something spiritual. I'm just remembering how, and I'm not saying that, I'm not comparing what we created to a text like the Srimad Bhagavatam or, Prabhupada's commentaries, but in a way, there is a strong connection, because it's like what Raghunath was saying to me yesterday, the wisdom in these songs is the wisdom from those books. So it's not my ideas, it's not my wisdom. And when I listen to it, I'm not just hearing, oh, that's me singing, but I'm hearing that wisdom, and it's healing for me. So yeah. I got a little lost from your original question, but that was kind of revisiting.
That's what the artist does, though. And that's a good point, though. That's what the artist does. They imbibe, well, or at least this on the spiritual journey, you're imbibing that truth, and then it just comes out in your own language or in the way you speak or the way you create. Right. And I think that's what you've done. I'm sort of out of the music world right now. Do you have a part of a record company? Did it get produced by a record company? Did you self-produce and self-manufacture? Will you take this thing on the road? Can we see you live perform these songs? How did it work like that?
Willow, so it came out through Willow's record label, which is Rock Nation.
Okay.
And that's a pretty big label. And in terms of production, Willow was the producer, actually. She
did an absolutely fantastic job.
Did a fantastic job. It was something that I didn't really know about her. I knew she sang, I knew she played guitar, but I didn't know she had such a gift for production. And she really did. So many times she would be like, I think we should just do this here, or put this sound here. And I was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, we could just leave it sounding sort of organic. And she was like, no. And she'd be trying to find a specific sound on the computer. And then eventually I'd be like, actually, yeah, that really took it to a completely different place. So she really has, I think she has a gift with that. And in terms of performing it live, we did perform it live together when we released it. We just did a little live on Instagram, just the two of us, which was fun. But yeah, we do have.
I guess nobody's doing live anything right now, but
we do have a hope and vision to do it in a big way. We joked about Coachella coming down in a big lotus flower. But who knows, we'll see what happens. It's very hard to know when these things are going to be possible in the world. So things may have moved on by that point. We may have done something new, but definitely it'll be beautiful. I mean, I'm dreaming of a day that we can really have very large gatherings where, we share both kirtan in a traditional way and these type of songs.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure it will happen.
Maybe we should let's make a festival.
Yeah.
And maybe her big record label will sign some washed up old middle-aged punk rockers, perhaps.
Anything is possible.
Anything's possible.
For a record deal.
I really did like the production on this record. It has a very clean feel. I know that all the instruments aren't acoustic, but it has kind of an acoustic feel to it.
Yeah, primarily we use guitar and violin and voices. So.
Yeah, and even
there was a live drum set in that too, right?
And that's not Gajendra.
Was there a live drum set?
That was Willow on the drum programming, but it's a live sample. So
I see. Yeah.
Okay.
As I was, what I was thinking as I was hearing it, I like that song a lot, the song Gajendra, the second track on the record, which, the beat, it's kind of like the beat starts to carry that song, which, a lot of other songs on, or a lot of your music is maybe not as like that, the beat isn't as prominent, but it did sound like an acoustic drum set, and it had a really nice feel. And I think it's a nice, even in not just devotional music, but broader music, I'm always waiting. It seems like it's got to start to go back, right? Away from the synthetic kind of sounds and back to a more acoustic sound. And I like that you kind of went that direction with this. But you said, it was after all that long travel and quarantining, and you finally getting in the same room. But that room was a special room that you recorded this in. Yeah.
Well, it was. We recorded at Conway's studio in LA, which I hadn't heard of before. But when I got there, I just looked at the walls, all the records on the walls, and I was kind of like, whoa, what?
Michael
How did,
Jackson, Barbra Streisand, U2, like everybody's recording.
yeah,
That's
there
like,
was a big piano in there, and I was looking at it like, who has played that piano? I can't even imagine how many
Wow.
legendary fingers have touched those keys. So that was, yeah, it was surreal for me. I mean, I've been sharing kirtan for so many years, in a very simple way, I would say. It's not like I've had an ambition to move into the mainstream music industry or anything. And this the whole way this came about was very much just sort of like a door opens, you step through, another one opens, you step through, and it wasn't sort of planned out. But to express this music in spaces like that, uh, it was very meaningful. And we set up a little altar in the space, and we it 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 felt very intentional and meaningful. So yeah.
nice.
Um, Before we get on the next question, I got cut off. We had this nice little pre-interview going on yesterday, and then something went completely wrong after 20 minutes with our internet connection. But I was asking you this quick, and I was getting attacked by these crazy Colombian bugs.
Ah,
But you told me once that I was trying to encourage my daughter to sing more, and and she's very shy, unlike myself. And I'm a natural sort of big mouth. I like to speak to people. And then you said, well, I didn't like, I was like, maybe you encourage her or something. And you said, well, I'm actually very introverted, and I didn't sing till I was like 22. I was like, how do you flip that? I find it peculiar that introverted people can be on stage in front of many thousands of people and is that hard for you every time you get up there? Or do you have to just I understand how there's an ego when you want to be big, but there's also an ego of like, I don't want to do this because it might be humiliating or something like that. How do you deal with that flip side of that ego, which is, if it is the ego, that you don't want to be big, but it's sort of like your duty to be big? How do you do that?
As far as I've understood it over the years, introversion is not the same thing as feeling shy and self-conscious. So I used to think it was all this part of the same thing, but now I understand. Introverts, they lose energy more being around lots of people, so they recharge when they spend time alone. And extroverts are the opposite, in a very simplistic sense. So being shy and feeling self-conscious is a different thing that is to do with the ego, because it's sort of like you don't want to be humiliated, you don't want people to laugh at you, you don't want people to say, oh, you don't really know how to do that, or it's a type of self-absorption. And I did have that shyness growing up, very much. It's not that I didn't sing at all. I mean, definitely, singing and music was around me all the time, but I didn't. My dad was very well known as a leader of kirtan. To me at that age, like how you see your parent. My dad was like famous, like it's like super famous person for singing, and people used to say, oh, can you sing like your dad? And I was like, no, I don't want anyone to like ask me or make see if I had that in me. So and also I just had some difficult, I think, partly because of I was very sensitive also, and introverted, and my journey through teenage years and trying to navigate identity and all of that was a bit quite bumpy, I'd say. So I think it was natural that I turned more and more inward into myself. I described it the other day to somebody in a way that really I felt really described it well, which was those coats that you can put the whole coat into the pocket and then close it like a little pouch. So it sort of felt like that to me. Like in my teenage years, I felt like I was just inside a little pouch, and something happened where, I mean, it just was a very natural thing where I think there were certain people in my life, mentors and people that started to encourage me and sometimes even push me in a certain direction. And I was quite resistant, but there were so many times where I did something that I felt really afraid to do, but naturally you do it and you feel stupid, and I was blushing or trembling, but then afterwards you feel like, oh, I did it and it was okay. Like I remember the first time I led a kirtan in a sort of context of sharing it with people who weren't so familiar, and it was in Oxford. They had a little kirtan gathering once a month in Oxford that has been going for many, many years. And there was about like 15 or 20 people there. And I was completely terrified and just felt like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Why did they ask me to do this? Why did I agree? But afterwards, it went okay. And I felt a little better. And so many, many experiences like that over the years.
Mm.
And that for me, it was just a gradual thing. So, yeah, I think that people that feel, it's like you say this, Raghu, you do this in your yoga classes. I've experienced this with you when you came to London and did a class, and you were trying to get everyone to try and do a handstand. And I was just like, I can't do handstands. I don't know how to do that. You were like, Jahnavi, it's your day. Why not today? Like you can do it. And, you got me to do it, or I supported, but afterwards I felt like, yeah, maybe I could, it's like that. That's how it happens.
Jahnavi,
threw her in the deep water.
like us, you also have a Patreon community growing. True?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's happening with that? Tell us about that.
I did take a lot of inspiration from you. I have heard about it for many years. And I was interested to start it, but I was also a little wary. I wasn't quite sure how I felt about, the whole concept of it. I just wasn't sure. I actually started it many years. I don't remember how long it's been around, but I did start a page which just sat there and I didn't do anything with it. But then seeing how beautifully this has, blossomed for you, I did feel inspired. So I started it about 2 months ago, and it's been a really wonderful experience, beautiful response. And I also was inspired by your model of the way that you set it up, where it's not a tier system, like you give this and you get that, like a sort of more of a transactional thing, but you give from the heart, according to what you're able, according to your inspiration, and the content or how the reciprocation happens is the same for everybody. That really inspired me, because Kaustubha and we've talked about this quite a few times, how we really feel, although maybe the whole world can't operate on the basis of donation and exchange like that, it's like, I don't want that to die completely. I really feel inspired by it. And if there's a way that I can keep that alive in some aspect, I just love it. So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience so far. And we have a monthly Zoom call. I can't do every day like you do, but we do a monthly Zoom call, and we started going through one of my favorite songbooks, which is Bhakti-yogi Thakur's Sharanagati. We're starting to explore those songs and just share with each other on our journey, spiritual journey.
Why don't you give us that web address?
Yeah.
Yes, it's patreon.com/Jahnavi Music.
Okay.
Easy to remember.
Okay, so if you're supporting us on Patreon, you can't unsupport us to support her. That's not going to work. You've got to just choose to support both.
It actually
there.
doesn't work on Patreon. You can't even.
We're going to take all our loyalty and give it to Jahnavi now.
I'm harvesting.
You and I.
It's weird because.
Go ahead, Raghu.
Go, Kaustubha, go.
No, you.
Run. I'm just thinking of the art. It's hard if you're an artist to get supported nowadays, especially with music, right? If you're ever in a band, you pay to play. You got to pay for guitar strings. You got to pay for the guitar itself. You got to pay for an amp. You got to pay for drumsticks. Oh, you broke a drumstick. Now you need a new drumstick. That costs money. You got to pay to play. And then you finally get paid and it's like, $40. It's like any artist suffers doing their art. And if you are born to act, like some people are born to make art, and some people are born to make music, and some people, and unless you get some type of community that wants to get behind you, it's like you just struggle there, and you have to work a job you don't like to do it. So I think it's actually great. And and then there's a curve. The curve in art is like, you go from like, I'm a nobody, I'm playing violin in the subway, to all of a sudden you're like a celebrity. Acting is the same way. And so it gives people that are artists a chance to be sort of artists, and it's great.
Yeah, it's powerful because there is this idea in bhakti that someone that performs kirtan, someone that recites Srimad Bhagavatam is not an artist in a sort of way that other artists might be like, okay, I play session guitar in the studio. That's my wage. That's my profession. There's the idea that this is a spiritual activity, and you should not have a transactional attitude to it. You should not be expecting something in return, which I've grown up with that being, drummed into me. So I never approached kirtan as a career. I never said that this is what I'm trying to be. But the more that as the years went by, I saw, well, this is what I'm doing most of the time. I did a lot of freelance work on the side, but somewhat recently, probably in the last year, actually, I just sort of decided that, well, I'm just gonna not do lots of other things. I'm just gonna do this, and it's been quite a powerful shift internally, and it's just an interesting thing, because I do think we have to see different ways of supporting things. It's not necessarily that by supporting a devotional artist that you're saying, okay, I'm just sort of paying your salary, but it is a reality that everybody has their expenses, and everything is so expensive to create and produce. So the way I see Patreon is that it's a way for us together to express our love and value for the devotional arts. Like, if we want this to be manifesting more, to be created, to be spreading out into the world, we want these things to be able to share with our friends and family. There's a way that we can support this more, and it's for me, it's for so many other artists who are creating right now, who I know some of you have been featuring on the show as well.
I remember once I was in Vrindavan, in the Krishna Balaram temple. Raghunath Swami was giving Srimad Bhagavatam class. And somewhere in that commentary, the verse, Srila Prabhupada's, as he often does, mention the point that you're bringing up. I think in that particular purport, it probably had to do with speaking Bhagavatam for a profit.
Yeah.
And of course, we see in the kirtan world, people can perform, kirtan music for profit. And I remember he was asked, in the question and answer period, he was asked about that. Well, we see, different kirtan leaders, they get paid to do kirtan in different places, and what about that? And his answer, I don't remember word for word his answer, but I remember the gist having to do with the intention that's behind it. Ultimately, someone like yourself, someone like a Gauravani, so many examples are there that we need you to be free to create what you do, because it benefits the world, it benefits the larger community. But we don't live in a world where that's sponsored by the king or the state or
Right.
So Patreon does kind of make that possible, I think. And I think that one thing, it's deep there in the Indian culture. Even with Western people that practice bhakti, I think they're a lot slower to catch on. But it's like, when you make money, you're supposed to give that money. You're supposed to you're supposed to like make that part of your service in life is to support. And so and to free people up like yourself to create their art, which everyone's going to benefit from. And I think it's one of the most powerful ways is actually to support the artists. It's something that everyone should consider, even if you do it a little bit. That's what's nice about Patreon. You can give just a little bit every month.
Right.
and really help support the arts, which become a, you know, you look at Raghunath's music, like with Shelter, it's like how many people were influenced by that music. You look at
Right.
George Harrison's music. It's, in one sense, you know, we should give to temples and support them and so on, but actually supporting the arts, you know, I think is one of the really the central ways that we uplift society. You know.
Right. And I think also it's important to understand the way that the landscape has changed. Like say somebody is creating music and producing music. Sometimes there might be an impression that, well, you know, it's getting streamed a lot on YouTube, it's getting streamed on Spotify and all this, but yeah, it's completely changed. People no longer even have a physical product to sell for something, or you know, well,
Yeah.
especially right now there's no live concerts, but now
Yeah.
this, like, the streams are, you know, I think it's like, you know, 0.03 or something for every stream. Like it's so small that it's
How do
practically
the artists make any money nowadays?
selling
You know,
t-shirts.
it's such a
and
different
Patreon.
world than when I was a teenager. I know.
Yeah.
We used to print our own records and go to the shows and sell our records, and the records cost $1.50 and we sell them for $3, our singles, and that's how we made money. And then we go on tour and we make money, and the record company then sells some, we get a check for that. Now it's like everything's streamed, it's all free, practically speaking, and they give you a penny every time you hear it. They give you a half a penny or something ridiculous. I feel bad for artists out there now. It's getting more taken away from them. There's no CDs, you can't sell those. Yeah, it's a very different world right now. We just got to buy Jahnavi t-shirts, or
But you know,
which is weird too. You know what I mean? Because if you're in a band like Led Zeppelin, you buy the shirt. But if it's weird to say, "Oh, I want to buy a Jahnavi shirt," I'm walking around with a big picture of your face and it says Jahnavi. It's hard to sell that as merch.
Yeah.
Although I would buy one, buy a Jahnavi shirt.
but,
Get
you
some
know,
interesting looks.
somehow it is you know, it is still getting out there, and again, it's exciting to me that your music is reaching so many people. Can you share, like, could you let us know, like, just how widely is your music reaching now in terms of stats? Do you?
I think I shared those stats with you. I have to look
Yeah.
them up because I never keep track of things like this. I'm very glad
Okay,
to have
well,
a
I
couple
can
of
pull
friends
them up
who-
if you want. And I
I have a
say that,
couple
maybe feel
friends
better
who
about it.
who do. Yeah, why don't you share?
But you said
That was a fake question. He already knew.
Yeah. Let's see. It's 25 million views, listens
What?
across platforms. 100 million minutes of engagement across the different platforms.
100 million.
I think
minutes.
I think the Rise EP has been streamed about 3 million times now.
wow.
But yeah, I don't I
Wow.
can't even
That
conceive
means
of those numbers. It sounds good.
Or is that's
It's like a
not,
platinum record.
yeah, well, is that like I forget the term, but like if I do it 5 times, is being counted as 5, or it's being counted as 1?
Oh yeah.
It's being counted as 5, I think. I think every time it gets played, it counts as a stream.
So they're not unique,
think.
but yeah. But
Yeah.
in any case, it's still, that's a lot. It
Okay.
is like, you know, it is something like
It's,
a
yeah,
platinum
the old
record.
days. What was
Yeah.
it?
It was 4
in the
million.
old-
and
Kaustubha,
something at
what
one
was it?
point. They kept they change it. You know, I think at one point it was like 4
was like
million was a platinum record, and then they bring it down and they bring it down.
Just to
Well,
put
in the
something
old
in
days, it was
context.
500,000. 500,000 was gold. You got a gold record at 500,000. Then I
you're gold.
think, I don't know. I need Parmenan. You're at least gold. You got a gold record. We're gonna call
Yes.
that. You're right
Someone
up there
shared
with like Ozzy Osbourne.
someone and someone in the music industry shared with me the other day that there are 40,000 new tracks being released on Spotify every day.
Whoa.
So he was
What?
saying that if we really want to make this kind of music reach the masses, we have to think about how are we more prolific. And I mean, he was challenging me to that point. He was like, how are you going to make yourself more prolific? I was like, oh. I don't know. I have to think about it. Yeah. But I mean, it's just to give it context, because I think, you know, if we feel inspired by something, if we feel like this helps us evolve and grow, we want it to reach more people. but it's definitely going to it's not going to be one person. It's going to be a collaborative effort, both between all the artists and musicians and the Bhakti community who can help to support and uplift these artists.
You got a new single coming out, or I don't know if single is the right word, but
do.
you got a new recording coming out, right? And that, that comes out on
Do they
Friday.
call it singles
On Friday.
anymore?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think they do. Yeah, it's coming out on Friday. It's called Govinda with an exclamation mark. And
Like
it's
Govinda.
Govinda. Yeah. It's a more traditional recording of kirtan, call and response, Govinda Jai Jai, Gopala Jai Jai, and yeah, it's an 11-minute single, so it's a long single, but it's more like a dive into the traditional kirtan mood. And it was recorded with the kirtan choir is some friends in London and in New York, so it's kind of it's a transatlantic offering.
Nice.
And I'm excited about it because yeah, I love to share that of our traditional culture also, and in many ways the Rise EP was a departure for me, but I'd like to do more of that. But equally, I'd like to continue to share the traditional mantra music, kirtan.
Where will people find that?
So that will
Same
be
places, I suppose.
everywhere. Yes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, all the places you can
So we
stream
look
things.
up Jahnavi Harrison.
Yes. Yeah.
We search Jahnavi Harrison and look for Govinda
Harrison.
exclamation point.
I
Yes.
love the art for it too.
Kaustubha,
Yeah.
that's like
Very
the
good,
old
right?
days. That's
What's that? What's like the old days?
saying it's like the old days. When how many minutes did you say it was?
100
11.
million? Or what? Oh, that 100 million minutes.
11
of
minutes.
games.
That's like Yes or Rush.
Oh.
It's like it's
Emerson,
a
Lake,
Yes
and
song
Palmer.
or something. It takes up like one side of an album. Right. It's a double album. That's what we want from Jahnavi, a double album. They had triple albums back then. Remember, Ian? Triple albums, a triple Jahnavi Kirtan LP.
Yeah, but
Box set.
there's that beautiful painting from our friend Kaveri.
Yes.
Krishna's feet.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I've been so inspired working with Kaveri. She's such a brilliant artist, and another example of somebody who just has so much talent to pour into her devotional offerings. And this track was definitely there was a lot of inspiration for me from the darshan of the deity of Govinda Dev in Jaipur. I've never been there in person, but
How's that possible?
It's one of these things. It's like I think Govinda Dev is keeping me waiting, because I've been waiting and praying to go there, and it hasn't worked out yet, but I see his darshan, and it's so enlivening, so inspiring for me. So yeah, these are his feet, and that's the inspiration.
I think next year, Raghunath, as soon as you get back from Colombia, we should set dates for next January at the Eco Village so people can plan for it, doing a retreat there.
Yeah, for sure. We usually do the very beginning of January, our training, our wisdom training, our music training, our 300-hour training. But yeah.
And then from there, we should go to Jaipur, and Jahnavi should come.
Yeah.
And sing for Govinda.
Sing for
Yes.
But, these guys, like when you get to Rajasthan, if you're familiar with Rajasthan, they got a little bit of a, they're a little punk rock themselves in Rajasthan. They start like shaking things and screaming. Jahnavi's very, very shanti. These guys got like attitudes. I had old ladies pushing me over, people climbing over you to have darshan. We got to bring that more into the Krishna Bhakti community. Sometimes you go to these Krishna Das concerts, everybody's very peaceful. After the kirtan, it's very quiet, hands full, the namaste. It's like, Vrindavan Bihari Nasi Krishna Bhagavan. People throwing things.
Some fireworks.
It's like the then you go to Nathdwar and you got the pujaris hitting you with the gumshas in the head. You're like backing off, whipping big. I got a little bit more aggro there. One of my ladies got pummeled in the face with a big ball of sindoor. you know, the big red ball, and I guess they offered it to the deity. And, you know, in Nathwar, you can't even move your body. You're so crammed, so close. It's like sort of like a, you know, if you don't like crowds, the worst place to be. You can't, practically speaking, lift your feet off the ground. And the men and the women are at different places. The women are generally up front there, and the men are crammed in the back. But she somehow got shoved way in the back. And she said, and so we couldn't find her. So I went out, and I was like, "Where is everybody?" And they're like, "Oh, she's still in the temple." And she came out, and her whole face was covered in red. I was like, "What happened? Are you okay?" And she said, well, the priest was doing some interesting offering, and then he turned and faced the crowd, and he just whipped a ball, and I couldn't move, and it was coming right towards my head, and it just boom, right in the face. And she goes, Raghunath, it was the most ecstatic thing that ever happened to me.
All right. That's
So
part
yeah,
of the
so I
next
think,
retreat.
Jahnavi, we're gonna go, but we're gonna get you into that stage diving punk hardcore thing. And I think it's gonna be a good. We're gonna marriage the cultures together thing.
Yeah, you always tell me you're going to throw me off
I
the
just,
stage if I come to one of your concerts. No, that would be great.
Well, I think everybody's got to stage dive once. Well, anyway, it's beautiful. We're excited for your new music and your
Thank you.
Patreon.com accounts, and thank you for having on the show again.
Thank you
We
so
love you.
much.
We're gonna listen to it
Oh, hey, you know, we should mention that
again.
just one plug is your mother's being interviewed today, right? Do you know that? Maybe you don't even know.
Yes. By
Right.
Rukmini Devi.
Urban Davy.
Yes, Urban Devi.
Wow.
So go to the bhakticenter.org.
Where's that?
Urban Davy. It's online. But you can go to bhakticenter.org and then find Urban Davy there. And she's being interviewed by Rukmini today. So that'll be good stuff. And I hear she's a loyal listener now too, right? Your mother?
She is. She's. I think she's a Patreon member, or she's intending to be.
Well, that's a big
So
deal
inspired.
to us.
Yeah. Thank you. I love what you do. I love this community, and I'm so inspired. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jahnavi.
Thanks
Oh,
to
wow.
everybody watching on Facebook today. Please join us here. You can email Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. That's how you're going to link up with us, and she'll give you the codes to go to Zoom or listen on Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much to Jahnavi for joining us, Kaustubha, Mara, for all your service. We're just dancing. We're having a little dance party here. Jai Radhe.